It's everybody's favorite week. It's taper week. And that means that we are going to be racing this upcoming Sunday on the 18th of May, 2025 at the Nottingham Outlaw Aquabike. In this video today, I'm going to take you through what this week is going to look like from a training perspective, a nutrition perspective, a mindset perspective to help me get ready and dot the I's, cross the T's for a few things ready for race day. And while you're here, please consider subscribing and liking this video to help me grow and reach more people like yourself with some of the tools, tactics, knowledge, and my own experience of achieving your potential personally, physically, and professionally. Bringing it on to today's video, before I go in depth any further into this week in particular, I'm just going to give you a little bit of context for what's been happening and going on since my last and actually first ever triathlon, which was Ironman Wales. So back in September 2023, I decided to go all in and go straight for the jugular for my first ever triathlon and go for Ironman Wales. And since that time, there's been a handful of things which have been happening along the way. Everybody's different, but my mindset with getting into triathlon was I'm going to do the hardest thing first and then reverse engineer off the back end of that. Now, common sense would tell you that that's maybe a little bit of a backwards approach. Maybe it should be better to go do a short distance, then a bit more of a longer distance, then a half, and then a full distance Ironman. And that's completely fair, and that's normal, and that's fine. I just happen to be the other way around. I'd rather get the hardest thing done first, knowing that I've done the distance, and then reversing it backwards to change the metrics and change the ways of training for shorter distances. And there's one thing on the whole day that came to light with what's brought me to where I am today. And on the build up to training for this event, I've always had tight hip flexors. I've always had tight hips, been stiff and mobile. And part of that is obviously down to a lifestyle of fitness and a lifestyle of training. You're going to get tightness build in the body pretty quickly. And then if you've got a job where you sat down, that's just going to add to that as well. So on the build up to this event in particular, because the volume of training starts to progress and it gets a lot more week upon week upon week, I started to notice these hips were really stiff and really tight. And as I say, it's always been a semi sort of issue for me since in my younger days, I was a goalkeeper and I was left footed. And I'll be honest, I only really ever used my left foot. So I was kicking the ball with just my left foot all the time. And I just presumed that tightness in that left hip was down to that. When I got over the finish line of Ironman Wales, it didn't feel like tightness. There was something not quite right. So I bit the bullet and I was like, I'm just going to pay privately to get a scan. Long story short, I've needed to have what's called a Birmingham hip resurfacing. And that was back in June of 2024, which today in May 25 is 11 months ago. So after the operation in itself, as you can imagine, there's a lot of rehab. You're learning to get strength back into it. You're learning how to use it properly. Naively, I presumed that after 3 to 4 months, got a new hip, right, I can now resume back to normal. And that wasn't the case because I didn't take into account the two things. One, the level of atrophy that I'd had from basically not using it properly. So over a period of time, because it was quite painful, I was avoiding using it. And what I mean is picking things up off the floor or putting your socks on, or I was always compensating in some way, turning corners around the kitchen countertops. And you do that for a long period of time and your body starts to shift its weight. So my right side has become really dominant and it's left my left side a little bit weak. So after sort of 3 to 4 months post-op, I realized that actually now I've got to learn to use it properly. So use it when walking with 2 feet, use it when running properly mechanically with 2 legs. And actually that's something quite difficult to change because your brain and your body is so used to avoiding it because it thinks it's still going to get the pain, and it's not. It's a real strange experience. I've now got myself into a position where I'm fairly comfortable at using both. And it's brought me to today where now I'm really excited to be competing this weekend. And an aqua bike is a 1.2 mile swim into a 56 mile bike. And there isn't the running component. That's the only difference. So what's on the cards this week then for taper week in particular? Now, taper week is exactly that. You're starting to pull back and regress the volume of what you've been doing in your last training block to ultimately get you ready for race day. So Monday's session, what we've got lined up is just a 90-minute zone 2 on the bike session. Tuesday, I'm going to do a double swim session. So Tuesday first thing in the morning, I'm going to be doing a swim squad session with Do 3 coaching, which will be a threshold session. Then on the evening, I'm actually going to go to Compton Verney and do an open water swim with a couple of my clients. And this will be a great chance to make sure that the wetsuit still fits. Fingers crossed. Maybe should have looked at that earlier. And to make sure that my tri-suit will fit underneath the wetsuit. And also, this is the first time I'm actually doing that. This is the first time I'm wearing a tri-suit under my wetsuit, because for Ironman Wales, I actually did a full change. I think I hold the record for the longest ever transition. I think I was in T1 for about 25 minutes. So this time it's going to be a lot quicker. I've got the tri-suit under the wetsuit, so that's going to be a real nice opportunity to see that it fits, just to give me confidence going into the race. Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a tempo bike session in the morning with my clients on Zwift. Every Wednesday morning, I host a Zwift session with my clients. It's a great way to get the rest of the team members together and ultimately have a little bit of fun, because the first Wednesday of every month, we do a race. It won't be that this week. It's just a tempo session with the guys, 2 sets of 20 minutes at tempo with 5 minutes rest. Thursday, I'm going to do a mobility session, which is just going to be from home, foam roller, mobility, bands, activation stuff. Make sure the body's nice and fluid. And Friday, I'm going to do zone 2 session with surges, 10 to 15 second bursts every 10 minutes. Saturday, easy ride for 20 to 30 minutes just to keep the blood flow in the legs. Sunday, race day. That's the training component. And I'll take you through what I'm going to do from the nutritional point of view, because this is very easy to overthink, in my opinion. And rightly or wrongly, this works for me. And it's important in your training blocks to practice and experiment with a handful of different things, and that includes your nutritional intake. So it hasn't been unfamiliar for me to experiment with various different things when fueling on the bike, when fueling pre and post sessions, and all those sorts of things to make sure that I'm in a good position in this week to just dot the I's and cross the T's. So last week, which is the week before this final week, I incrementally have just been adding 10 to 20% a little bit more carbohydrate and pulling back 10 to 20% on my fat and protein intake. Just making the switch. So getting the body used to that little bit more of carbohydrate. Now, again, we do not need to overthink that. You do not need to go down the route of tracking it with MyFitnessPal. You can if you like. From a mindset point of view, I just like to look at my plate, because realistically, I'm a man of routine, and no doubt you're a man or woman of routine, and you like to have certain things for your certain meals in the day. So what does that look like? Well, when you're looking at your plate, for example, at lunchtime, you know roughly what you have. If it's a carbohydrate, you have a X amount of rice, pasta, or potato. You know what it looks like from habit. All that you're going to do the week before is just add what looks like a handful more. That's it. So just add a little bit more rice, a little bit more potato, a little bit more pasta, and do that for 2 to 3 meals in the day. So in the morning, if you're having egg on toast, which is what I have, I'll have an extra half a piece of toast. So it's 2.5 pieces, not 2. That incremental for 7 to 10 days is going to start to build up in the body. So that's a whole week of doing that, and that was last week. Now this week, what I'm going to do, starting today, is the same thing up until Wednesday. Then on Wednesday, as we have got all of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, race Sunday, going to change it slightly. I'm going to now start to increase the amount of lower fiber carbohydrates, which is white rice, white pasta, bread, white potatoes, and I'm going to reduce the fats. So I'm going to reduce down like the red meats and the heavier fatty sort of things. Just start to now think more simple foods. Not only that, when it comes to maybe your vegetables on the plate, I'm going to focus more on swapping out big raw salads for more cooked vegetables, carrots, broccoli. Now, why am I doing this? Well, what's worked for me in the past is reducing that fiber intake, because on race day, what I find is that my gut can be a little bit sloshy, if you like. It can feel a little bit bloaty and all those sorts of things. And I've put it down to the fact that you've got fibrous material still in the gut, because as you can imagine, fiber takes a lot longer for the gut to digest, which means that it's staying in your stomach. And this is going to cause more of the issues like bloating, cramps, or needing to go to the toilet mid-race, which is not ideal. So for me, less fiber equals a lighter gut, which means a smoother race. And that's pretty much it from the nutrition. I don't overcomplicate it. I don't overwhelm it, because I know what I'm like. And if I start to see numbers in MyFitnessPal and I'm trying to stick to the certain thing and it's got to be 100% accurate, and I just know it'll add more stress and I won't enjoy the process of this week. Which brings me on to the mindset side of things. It's important to enjoy this week the best that you can, because your adrenaline is going to start to upregulate closer to race day. Start to going to get that nervousness and that anxiety and that excitement build in the body. So because of that, it's quite nice to balance that out with some enjoyable things. Now, that might just be a walk around the block more often at lunchtimes, or meeting up with a friend for coffee, or going to make sure you get your hair done, or having a massage. Whatever it is, just make sure that you get some form of enjoyment in this week, because you want to turn up to race day with a smile on your face. And I find that those sorts of things, for me, really help in my preparation. If I start to pigeonhole myself and get really fine-tuned into focus and all those sorts of things, and which, yes, there is a component of that, but if I go too heavy into that, everything else around me just gets lost. So disconnect with partner, with family, with friends, and all those sorts of things. And that's not what this is about, for me anyway. Because again, one level before that, I've made the choice within this prep. Am I going to go into this with a race mentality or an enjoy the day mentality? Now, you can obviously blend the two, but I find that if you psychologically get yourself ready at the start of prep and it's race mode, you do have to approach some things a little bit differently than you would if it's enjoyment mode. Because enjoyment mode is all about, right, taking it in, I'm going to go through this nice and steady and make sure that I enjoy the swim as much as I can and all those sorts of things. Enjoy the bike as much as I can, take it in, take the scenery, which do that, yes, anyway. But if you're racing, more than likely, you're going to keep your head down and focus on numbers, times, and powers and all those sorts of things. So for this prep in particular, I've switched it to enjoyment mode, and whatever happens, happens. Moving forwards, I want to start to now kick this back into race mode and start to compete and all those sorts of things, because I know what that feels like. I've done high rocks events, so I know what it feels like to race, and that is also a very good, powerful thing. So maybe on your prep for what you've got coming up, ask yourself the mindset, am I going to go for time or am I going to go for enjoyment? And put yourself more in one park than the other, and let the second option become a byproduct of the first option. So we've gone through a little bit of the training, a little bit of the mindset, a little bit of the nutrition. It's time to crack on with taper week. So as I mentioned, this week you should get in a little bit of enjoyment and a little bit of fun, let's be honest. So I'm going to be meeting my mum for a coffee. It's always good to spend time with family, so I'm spending time with my mum, going to have a coffee, catch up and all those sorts of things. And also, you know what mums are really, really good for? Is helping you out with fixing things when you've ripped your bib shorts. And it's a soul-destroying moment for these bib shorts in particular. These are my MAP bib shorts, and this is nothing to do with MAP, by the way. These have been incredible. Really, I do really like the MAP kit. But schoolboy error, I've overloaded my washing machine, I believe, and it looks as though a zip has got caught in the shorts itself, and that's happened. So that is not ideal, especially considering how expensive these things are. So a little bit gutted about that, but I'm also got my fingers crossed to hope that my mum can fix and patch this up with her sewing skills. So in advance, I'll pay for coffee today. So as I say, hopefully she'll look at these and get those fixed. So I'm going to do that now. Then I'm going to come back and do my second work block with my clients. I'm going to program some of their guys with their performance blueprints, and then we will be getting our session in a little bit later on in the day. You're on Teller.
How come?
Because I've got a request. This is part of the journey. I put these in the wash, and that happened.
Ah, did that get caught?
I don't know if I've overloaded the washing machine, or it's a zip.
Oh, chewed it.
Yeah, but feeding
caught, hasn't it, there somewhere?
Yeah, feeding that material, is it repairable?
Yeah. You know that top I bought before to make your arms wider? I've still got some of that.
Oh right.
I could put it underneath. I mean, you're not going to see it, are you, where it is?
No, it's on the leg. It's the inside of my leg.
Yeah, well, it's black, I think. Just neaten that and put it underneath.
Coffee's on me then. So I treated my mum to a coffee in exchange for her repair skills on my bib shorts. And now I've got to also, before I forget, try on my tri-suit and try it on with my wetsuit, because as I say, this event I'm going to put the tri-suit on underneath. So fingers crossed that all fits, and hopefully we won't have to make some last minute purchases. Let's get that on first. I'm hot already. This is going to be a long afternoon. Second time for the wetsuit today. First time I just wanted to see how it felt putting it on, especially getting ready for race day, just making sure that everything fits. This should be a nice little test to see how this wetsuit feels. Look, they're great white, the powerhouse that is. He's ready for battle. Look, feeling strong.
Let's go.
Yes.
Tackle these waves.
I had to get the dry robe on film. There she is, look. Proper dry robe. Dry robe in the wild. Love it. Look at that. That's a nice little surprise, isn't it? Put a smile on my face. 2 little bottles of vino from 2 amazing clients. Nice little bit of Rioja. What a pair of legends. Love that. Good morning. So it's Wednesday morning, and this morning session with the Built to Perform members. So I believe, there they are, look. They're all ready and waiting. Got Matt's in there, Ben's in there. I'm ready to kick off. So we're kicking off in 7 minutes, so I'm going to get my drinks ready. So as I say, I like to get my team members together for a group session, just nice for accountability and community. And it's, as I say, it's usually a zone 2 session, and sometimes actually I'll prescribe the session and we can all follow along at the same time, because I've got the webcam up and running, so the rest of the lads can see what I'm doing. We can all talk to each other, and it's just a real nice thing to have as part of Built to Perform. So as I say, I'm going to get the drinks ready and then meet the rest of the lads for the session, and we'll go from there.
Gents, that's me done.
You gotta go, mate, yeah?
Well done, nice one. I am off to dig on the floor.
Team, so about to kick off my mobility session today. We're on Thursday, so just basic stretching, flexibility work, and making sure that my body's nice and loose. Also, one thing I've been taking this week, which I didn't mention earlier, I take these in the morning and the evening, so twice a day. These Beetroot or Beat It Sport Nitrate 400s, which is basically a shot of beetroot juice. And the main reason for that is because beetroot is really rich in nitrates, which the body converts into nitric oxide, which is in effect a compound that helps dilate the blood vessels, therefore potentially allowing more oxygen to reach the muscles. So that's what I'm going to be taking as well this week. This house quickly just turns into a gym very, very quickly. If you can't see that, I've basically got a lacrosse ball on my foot and I'm ironing out the bottom of my foot. It isn't comfortable, it isn't pleasant, but it does help unlock your feet and therefore goes into your calves, therefore up the chain, hamstrings, quads, hips, so on and so on. So it starts at your feet. Ball, sit on it, on your glute. And if you really want to make this disgusting, put your ankle on your knee. Foam roller on the back, going to start on the lower back, lumbar part of your spine, which is the lower part. And then I come across sort of 45 degrees in this sort of position here. And you're aiming for right in the lower part of your back. And there'll be a nice little spicy part in there. This one, as you can see, knees bent, keep your feet together, your knees together, arms out to the side, and you're just stretching across. This doesn't seem like a lot, but trust me, with my calves and ankles have always been really stiff. So for me to even sit on my heels, that's quite a big win for me. And this is all basic stuff, and you get into your own sort of flow with doing these things. Some of these stuff I'm more dynamic with, so I'll do hip flexors, for example, like this. I'll lean into it and then lean in a little bit more, so it's just a little bit more dynamic. Other stuff I'll do static, so just hold the stretch. So for example, holding this position as well. Just do whatever the body feels comfortable doing, and don't work through pain, like work up to the point where it really starts to get tight and then just ease it off. You are just trying to work the muscle in very small ranges, just again to give it that little bit more freedom. 9 times out of 10 you've been sitting down working in that position, in that short and tightened position. So we're not looking to be completely flexible by the end, but over a period of time we are trying to just unlock the body day by day, week by week. Yes team, we're coming in the mix. We're on a nice steady loosener today, Saturday. So I've been in the pool this morning just for 20 minutes, did about 700 meters, just getting the feel for the water. Then now I'm just going to do 1 hour at zone 2, but lower heart rate zone 2, about 125, 130 beats a minute, just on the border. So I've got to lock that in and then head back, have some lunch, have some food, do a little bit of race prep, organise my mind, organise my thoughts, organise the day. Then head down to Nottingham this afternoon, check into the hotel, Rudy's Pizza tonight, bit of carb loading, and then game on tomorrow.